Hello, this is Ricky Van Winkle, host of the RMT Books Podcast. Today we have the opportunity to listen in on a conversation that I had with NFT enthusiast, NFT creator, NFT artist, Mr. Erick White. He is the creator of a NFT called the Party Gooberz. He also owns and operates the brand The Party Mansion. And he's gone through this process over the last 2 years, and he was lucky enough to come to RMT Books studio. We went out on the patio, there were some birds chirping in the background, and we discussed his story. Basically, he shared with me and he'll share with you guys his story on how he went from unemployment to running a successful NFT company. So guys, thank you so much for joining today. Let's go ahead and listen in on the conversation I had with Erick White. Didn't you start your Goobz in Photoshop?
I started in Procreate.
Okay.
And then, so Procreate is this app that you use to draw on the iPad. And so you can directly just draw on it.
Okay.
And then from there, it kind of quickly overwhelms the iPad.
Okay, yeah.
And so then I'll bring them to the PC, which is a little more powerful. And I'll save them there. And then I'll combine them all under one file, all these different assets. And then I'll run and I'll combine them there to create the Goobz.
Oh. Okay. I don't want to give away too much of your your techniques here. That's for, I think that's stuff really specific stuff like that is stuff for you to know and other people to strive towards, right? I mean, information like that is worth thousands of dollars, right? So if you
one would hope.
I guarantee that last sentence right there, I value at a couple grand, right? You got people sitting at home right now, their eyeballs are falling out trying to figure out how the hell you did what you did, right? I mean, they're trying to find a path to get to where you are. There's people like that. I can totally imagine, trying to get to where you are. And
yeah, it's interesting because you don't really consider success or not success or anything. I just started drawing, right? Mm-hmm. The hardest part is I remember I get into this Clubhouse space. I don't know if you know Clubhouse, but this is these chat rooms.
Okay. And
I was I created this big NFT project, and now what do I do with it almost? How do I sell it or whatnot? And I was I don't really feel comfortable building a whole community. And this guy, he's like this smooth talking DJ. Mm-hmm. He gets back and he goes, "Yeah, but dude, who's gonna buy it?" And it just clicked. It's well, that makes so much sense. You create this art, you create this project, and at the time the NFTs were booming, right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't necessarily mean that yours are gonna sell or mine are gonna sell, right? And so I started creating them, and I was all right, so you have to give people a reason to want to purchase them, right? And so that's kind of what started this adventure of building this community behind my project.
Okay. Just to give people a reason to come to your NFTs and purchase them, and per se, but I mean, it's not that you just wanted to sell NFTs. At the point when you start the community, you really then invest yourself in the community and consider that as probably one of the largest parts of your project, or not?
Yeah, looking back on it, the artwork was honestly one of the easiest parts of the project, creating it. So I spent a lot of time drawing the Goobz, a lot.
Yeah.
And I would wake up and I was drawing 10 hours a day on these things. I woke up, I picked up the iPad, and I was drawing from 8 in the morning till I'm almost sometimes 2 in the night. And I did that. And so, and I had drawn all these Goobz, and I think they're amazing. And then my buddy, he comes up and goes, "Yeah, but I mean, they need to be better,
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm what? They're amazing. But then I started really evaluating my artwork. And I'm okay. So I went then, at this point, I had already been drawing for a month. And at that point, I went back and I basically redrew everything I had already drawn, but I upgraded it. And so I took all the old files and redrew everything to create this whole new Party Goob experience.
Wow. All right. So you invest 10 hours a day for countless days, and then somebody's honest with you saying, "Got to make it better." How does that affect you on a mental level? How much have you thought, am I going to do this? Or, what was the battle like right there?
It wasn't until the really end I kind of got tired,
Okay.
At the moment, I was like, okay, I'll just make them better, I guess. Like, I don't know. I don't really remember it. I remember going, just accepting it, simply accepting it, and just like redoing it. I was like, okay, fine. Because at the moment, I was like, I just want these things to be awesome and sell.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I started this project, I was really much in a different headspace than I am now. Because at the time, I didn't have this slight sales behind me. At this point in my life, I'm looking for work. I'm looking for money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if they need to be better, I'll just make them better.
Okay, yeah. All right. So you touched on a little bit, but I kind of want to get into this. Like, before you get into becoming an NFT savant, you were like, can I say this? To say you were like receiving unemployment. You had a a photography business that you decided to no longer pursue. So everything was looking.
It was looking bleak.
It was looking bleak.
I was no longer receiving unemployment. Like it was like, okay, so I had received unemployment, and then they were like, all right, we're not giving you unemployment anymore. At this point, I had turned in like 30 resumes in the past like 6 months, if not more. I haven't heard everything I heard back was no's.
Okay.
My photography business died on arrival due to COVID. Like, COVID came out. It was like, nah, not today. And so the photography business was actually doing well before it died.
Okay.
And so whenever I got going, I had a couple bigger customers. I had actually landed a job with Ferrari until that fell flat, and everything just kind of stumbled from there.
Okay.
And it was this, I say Ferrari, it was like a dealership, dealership. And everything kind of started falling flat. And I was always like an artist, kind of like growing up. I like to draw. And I was into crypto. I really like cryptocurrencies. I like what they stood for, overthrow the government type of stuff. Not really, but I like the fact that giving people power over their own money.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but banking in Germany drives me insane because I feel like I don't have access to my own money so often. And so this crypto is like this fun way to feel empowering, So I was in there, and then, I started seeing these projects pop up, and I wanted some, but I was poor at the time. Like, I really wanted a Bored Ape, the most popular NFT out there. But there was they cost $400 at the time, and I had $500 in my account.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want one because it's cool, but what is it really going to be later? In that project, they eventually went up to value of like $300,000 per ape. Right? And so I was kind of watching all this explode and take off, and I was like, man, I really want to be a part of this movement, because sometimes, you ever just see something explode in front of you, you're like, man, I want to be a part of this magic.
Right.
This looks fun. Let me just dip my toes in it and jump in there. And that's kind of what happened. I just started I say that, but actually, whenever I started the Goobz, I turned everything off. All social media, all internet, I stopped trading, everything. And I only did the Goobz for like 3 months. And then I was like, well, then I'll come out, and then I'll be known, and people will buy them. And you come out like, no one cares about you.
Oh, man. That's great. Oh, but I like this thought because I find that I get into this space too, where it's like when you're going into a design process, like with the Goobz, you just turn off the outside world. Do you do that to not be influenced from them, or is it more of a distraction?
No, exactly. I did not want to be influenced by any other artwork. And so there was other art, generative artwork, especially of characters. So the Goobz are actually, they're humanoid dogs.
Okay.
Now, there's a lot, it's not like a novel idea. There's a lot of these projects out there. But you look at them, and a lot of them are like repetitions of the same artwork with just like different color palettes.
Okay.
Like there's 1,000 different ape derivative projects. But I wanted something completely new, completely different that no one's really seen before. And that's whenever I got on mine. And to do that, I felt like I had to turn off everything to not accidentally copy other artwork.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't know that the projects were that popular either, you know. But yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I just shut everything down, because I didn't want that outside influence.
Okay. So here you are, unemployment's run dry, photography company's gone down. You say, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to shut off social media and just work for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. And then you get out there and it's just crickets. Is it in the beginning? That's the feeling you got? Like, you did all this work, you invested all this time, you love it. Of course you love it. It's your work. And then how do the crickets, how do they wear on you?
You know, it was really weird because my expectations slowly got in order by launch date.
Okay.
So like a month before launch, I'm sitting there like, we're going to sell out immediately.
Yeah.
And then, you know, a week later, I'm like, we're going to sell 70%. And by the time we get to launch, I'm like, if we can just sell 100 of them at launch and just to make up the money I put into the project, I'll be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't have actually a lot of overhead going into this project.
Yeah.
I invested probably like $8,000 from my savings, but it wasn't really, I didn't really put money into it. That was just money that I used to keep me alive. Okay. So basically I had like $8,000 in savings. I cut that up in 6 months. Yeah. I was like, all right, you got this much money over 6 months to make this thing happen. Okay. So I didn't really like invest in marketing. I didn't invest in anything like that. It's just what I did. And yeah, so I don't know, whenever it happened, we sold, I think like 100 of them the first night. So I met that demand and I was excited. And we started building a community from there. Like we did, you know. All of a sudden I'm in Discord all the time. I'm on Twitter. And we have all these people hanging out, and we're just having a good time. And that's kind of how it developed, where you really I really dived into the community and started meeting all these people.
Okay. Yeah. So interesting thing is, not only do you jump onto the NFT, we'll say, bandwagon, or the explosion that was going on, not only do you get into that marketplace at the right time, but you also take advantage of the coronavirus not allowing people to meet in public, so that you create a digital party space, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So people were all stuck inside, and so my Discord, we had parties, like these party vibe feels for the longest time, and people would come in there. We would just on Friday night we'd play music and we just talk and hang out and get drunk, and just like you would at a normal bar, but we're on Discord. And we would do that, and we were the Party Gooberz, and that's what we were doing, and we still do to this day. I have to be honest, like the parties kind of slowed down a little bit, but because people's lives picked back up. Mm-hmm. Okay, you know, the doors opened up, and all of a sudden, no one was joining party hour anymore because people could go outside again. Okay. But it was kind of fun because I kind of met that niche whenever people needed it. Yeah. And so whenever winter comes back around and people are going back inside, you know, we'll be ready again.
Of course.
Hey guys, party hour is coming back, you know, stuff like that.
And it's such a novel concept to think that, I mean, everything just falls into place at the right time. But another thing I want to get at too is like the success came then, even though things look bleak, the success came over a relatively short period of time. I mean, if you think about, I'm only familiar with a couple of businesses, but I don't see this very often that people are like, hey, I'm drawing dogs, and a couple months later you're like, whoa, right?
Dude, I cannot imagine what people's brains were doing when I was telling them what I was doing. Because I would tell people like, oh, Eric, what do you do? I'm like, I'm drawing dogs. That's it. I'm drawing dogs, and I'm going to sell them online as an artist. And they're like, well, what are these dogs? What are they? What are they for? Like, well, they're NFTs. Well, what's an NFT? It's this digital token that you can have in your wallet. And I'm explaining to these people have generally no idea what I'm doing. And yeah, so I'm assuming a lot of people thought I was crazy whenever I started this adventure. Right. Yeah, because it's kind of a hard concept to grasp if you're not in the NFT space.
Very much so. Yes. Were you able to like feed off of? I mean, did you take that as like a chip on your shoulder that people were like, this dude's crazy? Were you like, I'm going to prove him wrong? Or was it like, you just knew what you were doing and stayed focused on it? I mean, how much? Oh,
yeah, that one. Like, so definitely, I did not care. Okay. Like, if they didn't see it, I did. I was like, I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I was like, I mean, I was in the space. I saw that the projects were happening. I saw that there were people there. And I genuinely, when people were like, but honestly, most people were supportive in their responses, even though they didn't get it. I don't think I really had anyone tell me I was insane.
Okay.
Yeah. Most people just didn't get it. But at the time, I didn't really care if they did. I was like, because I saw it and I knew what I was doing, and I was confident in what I was doing, and that was the rodeo I was on. Like,
oh man, okay, awesome. So here at RMT Books, we offer opportunities for people to. It's like this. It's for people who think their lives suck, but they want to do something about it, right? So what we're saying is like this, right? You were in a tough spot and you got out of it just by staying focused on that one goal you had. But it's another thing too to say to you, you enjoy doing artwork. You enjoyed NFTs. This is also true, correct?
Yeah, so this was definitely me capitalizing on a movement I really wanted to be into.
Right.
It's not like all of a sudden that I don't remember, like the joke was tomato prices went through the roof. Okay. A couple months ago, and well, like remember when wood prices?
Yeah, I got you there.
It's not like all of a sudden I saw a market and just capitalized on it that was just not in tune to my character. I saw this explosion of a market and was really drawn to it. Like, I want to be there. Like, I was almost like this lost soul who kept trying to shove myself into boxes. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I was like, hey, this world is the one I want to belong to.
Yeah.
I want to be in part of this society, this ecosystem. And so it was really, I guess, beneficial that NFTs exploded when they did.
Right.
Because if not, I don't know where I'd be,
Yeah, but I mean, you don't have to think about that anymore, do you?
No, I mean, I'm very stressed. God, there's not a moment in my day that I'm not like panicked that I'm going to be poor next year. Because... yeah, so we would say like the Goobz sold, and they sold fairly well, but it wasn't life-changing money in this sense. It was a successful project, and so what I have to really look at it now as an artist is like, okay, so what's next? How do we start building our next project? Yeah. How are we going to build on top of this project? And so, and that's what right now we're using a lot of this money to build out the comic book, to give reasoning behind it. We invested in virtual land to have like real parties later. Mm-hmm. We're trying to really continue to grow this project because it started as a simple art project and it really grew into this whole brand.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel as if I'm like, almost like I'm I'm trying to run a touchdown right now, but I'm like fumbling the ball, but I'm still moving forward, but I'm just trying to get the ball over the finish line, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I feel like there's so much I'm still learning, but I'm still just like, fuck it. I'm going to keep running and I hope it works out, you know?
Dude, like totally fearless. Okay. So, I mean, in the beginning, it seems like you have this clear focus, and now you've been catapulted into this digital world where do you feel like you have the same level of focus? Is the light still at the end of the tunnel? I mean, what's the big difference between now and then?
It was so much easier back then. Because back then, the project was draw, create the artwork. And now, since the project has launched, I'm creating a new project that ties into this one. And then, so it's like another character that's going to be in this story. Okay. So I'm creating that artwork. But then also I'm running the marketing now. Also, I'm doing the community management. And then now we're talking to lawyers. Now we have a tax advisor. And now I'm like pulled all these different ways, which those areas are not my area of expertise. Mm-hmm. I like to draw, talk to people. Yeah. And so now I have all these new factors I'm learning about, like how to run a successful business. Mm-hmm. And those are kind of stressful and those are exciting. But yeah, so I feel like that right now it is. I feel a little bit more torn in all these different directions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And to go about combating that is just, I mean, this is something that's probably going to happen for our viewers when they get into their own business, digital assets and whatnot. They get stressed out later on. I mean, I say it's easy when you have that goal in mind, when you see the light at the end of the tunnel, but now you're on to a bigger world where you stretch out. One question, how do you take care of yourself on a personal level in order to maintain or to combat all this stress that you're facing? What do you do there?
Well, that's a great question. What I do, I internally stress about it a lot, and that should be great for my health. No, actually, I just, people. It's different people. It's learning to accept help. It's learning to talk. It's learning to be open. I'm definitely much of a character that likes to do everything myself. Mm-hmm. And once you get to this part, you slowly start realizing you can't. And you need assistance from others because everyone brings something new to the table. And I've met so many interesting and intelligent people in this field that are better in business than I am. They're better in marketing than I am. And so I latch on to these relationships and I try to learn from them. Because something that you can't fear is success, right? Like all of a sudden you're successful and things do get harder, but that's what makes it worth it, almost. With these RMT books, you have readers and stuff that they're trying to accomplish their goals, right?
Right.
And it's funny because we're all normal, and I put me in this boat. Like we're all not successful until we are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like it just can happen like overnight. Mm-hmm. And so, what do? I just keep chugging forward. I just keep soldiering on. I guess that's what I do. I don't know how to stop. I just fuck it. I'm just gonna keep going forward.
Don't even know how to stop.
Yeah.
Oh man.